Have you ever felt like you're always chasing something, only to find that once you catch it, the emptiness is still there? Like there's a hunger that never goes away. A constant dissatisfaction that turns every achievement into just another broken promise. Schopenhauer didn't think this was a glitch in the system. He believed it is the system. For him, this restlessness is the essence of being human. We're driven by a blind force, a will to live, that condemns us to endless desire, never allowing us to truly rest. This video isn't about how to be happy. It's about understanding why that might never actually happen. If you've ever felt like nothing is ever enough, like your mind is always reaching for something just out of reach, something that may not even exist, then you need to watch this all the way through. We're going to dive deep into the philosophy of the will, the quiet pain we carry, and why, according to Schopenhauer, happiness is just a brief pause between two waves of suffering. Get ready. This journey might hurt, but it might also set you free. Have you ever noticed how even after getting something you really wanted, that feeling of fulfillment doesn't last? Almost immediately, a new desire appears, loud, urgent, echoing in your mind. Schopenhauer called this the will, a blind force that's never satisfied. It doesn't care about your peace, it only wants motion, craving, more. It's like a machine that must keep spinning, even if it's tearing itself apart. This blind will has no clear goal. It wants just to want. As kids, we dream of toys. We grow up and those toys become status, love, money. But the logic stays the same. We desire, we get, we feel let down. And even when everything seems fine, there's a voice whispering, something's missing. It's still not enough. Have you heard that voice? The restless mind refuses the present. It's always escaping now, chasing a future where maybe pain won't exist. But that future never comes, because what drives us is the lack itself, and that lack is what consumes us. Most people make the mistake of believing that peace lies at the end of desire. But Schopenhauer knew peace isn't the destination, it's the illusion that flickers by the roadside. We live like shipwreck survivors, searching for solid ground. But every time we touch the sand, it slips through our fingers. And it's not because we're chasing the wrong dreams. It's because desire itself is built to collapse. Human will is a prison dressed as freedom. And the more we feed it, the stronger it grows. Have you ever felt that, like you're running in circles, even as you look like you're moving forward? To Schopenhauer, this repetition is the tragedy of being. We don't desire by choice, we have to. It's an existential addiction, and even knowing that desire will hurt us, that pain will follow right after, we still can't stop. Because if we did stop, what would be left? Just silence. An unbearable confrontation with the emptiness that desire was always trying to cover up. Does that scare you? Maybe this is the first real truth of the video. We don't suffer because something's wrong with us. We suffer because this is the structure of the world, of the mind, of the will. And understanding that isn't giving up, it's waking up. It's the first step toward choosing more wisely what we feed. Now, what if this will, this restless engine, is just the first link in a much bigger invisible chain? Schopenhauer believed that the world we know, the one we see, touch, and desire, is just a surface, a mask. He called it representation. But behind that curtain, there's something deeper, something invisible. He called it the will, not your personal will. Like craving pizza or longing for a hug, this will is blind, universal. It doesn't think, it doesn't care. It just wants through us. And the cruel part, it doesn't care whether we're happy. In Schopenhauer's view, we are instruments of a force that wants for no reason. No moral compass, no divine purpose, no higher plan, just endless wanting, keeping us forever dissatisfied. In that light, happiness is nothing but a biological trick. A brief moment of relief between two crises, just enough to keep us running. But running toward what? The most unsettling part. This prison has no visible bars. We go through life believing we're free, when really we're puppets, pulled by desires we never consciously chose. From birth, we're trained to chase success, love, recognition, security. But no one tells us that these goals are driven by something that never rests. And the more we chase, the further we drift from peace. Schopenhauer was one of the few philosophers brave enough to stare into that abyss. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't offer easy comfort. He simply said, "Look, see what really drives you." And that truth is terrifying, because it suggests that the freedom we value so deeply might just be another illusion crafted by the will, another mask over the cage. Have you ever felt that? Like everything you do is just a reaction, not a real choice. The most painful part of this theory is realizing the enemy isn't out there. It's inside. The will lives in our bodies, in our impulses, in our expectations. It's like being trapped inside your own skin. That's why, even when things seem fine, there's often a quiet ache we can't explain. A tension we carry. That's the echo of the prison. Subtle, constant, existential. And now, the inevitable question, if we're bound to this invisible force, is escape even possible? Can we break the cycle of craving, suffering, and craving again? Schopenhauer did offer a way out, but it's neither easy nor comforting. In the next chapter, we'll explore this infinite hunger, why it never ends, and how it's tied to the silent despair of modern life. We live in the age of abundance, speed, instant access. Everything is just a click away. Food, pleasure, distraction, relationships. And yet, we've never felt so empty, so hungry for something we can't even name. This is the curse of the modern soul, to consume everything and still feel like something's missing. It's like trying to quench your thirst with seawater. The more you drink, the deeper you drown. Schopenhauer saw this coming, long before the internet, social media, or hustle culture. He believed human suffering doesn't depend on the times we live in, but on the structure of the will itself. And the will is never satisfied. What changed is the speed. Now we jump from one desire to the next without even tasting what we just had. We live under the rule of chronic anxiety, the endless pressure of what's next, and it's exhausting. Every achievement, no matter how big, quickly becomes background noise. That shirt you had to have, it's at the bottom of your closet. That dream trip, a folder of photos, that perfect relationship, now just routine. And there you are again, wanting more. Feeling like a life without satisfaction is the only life you know. And the cruelest part? Most people don't even realize they're stuck in the loop. This infinite hunger is no accident. It's carefully fed by a system that profits from your unease. Ads sell you happiness. Apps promise love. Coaches offer step-by-step blueprints for success. But none of it touches the root of the question. Why does nothing truly satisfy? Why does the emptiness return, even when life looks perfect from the outside? Schopenhauer would say, it's because we're trying to kill a monster with bread. But this monster feeds on desire. It doesn't die when it's full, because it never gets full. And that's the hardest truth to face. This pain doesn't have a face. It shows up as boredom, as insomnia, as that deep, inexplicable fatigue. It's the quiet ache of living in a world that tells you you can have everything, but never teaches you how to be at peace with anything. It's the weight of being human in an age that demands constant performance, while your heart just wants to rest. Have you felt that? that strange urge to disappear, even when everything seems to be going fine. So here's a question to sit with. What if the problem isn't what you don't have, but the endless need to keep wanting? What if the answer isn't in the next goal, but in dismantling the hunger itself? In the next chapter, we'll explore the illusion of happiness and how it might just be a pause between two waves of suffering. Are you ready to keep going into this dark, revealing journey? What if the happiness you're chasing isn't a destination, but just a break between two waves of suffering? That's Schopenhauer's radical view. To him, pain is the natural state of existence, and pleasure, a rare exception, a flicker. When we're hungry, we feel pain. We eat, and for a moment there's relief, but soon the emptiness returns. Happiness, then, isn't some lasting state. It's just the temporary silence of pain. This changes everything. Because what we call pleasure is really just the brief suspension of desire. You wanted something, you suffered for it, you got it, and for a few seconds your mind goes quiet. But the will never sleeps. It only steps back to catch its breath, and soon a new desire takes hold. The cycle begins again. That's why so many moments of happiness feel strangely melancholic. Deep down, we already know they won't last, and that realization can be crushing, because it means we're not really chasing fulfillment. We're just running from pain. Most people live under the illusion that there's a moment, a place, a version of life where everything finally fits, but that moment never comes. The closer you get, the more it slips away, like a mirage in the desert of being. Schopenhauer said that pleasure is negative, not morally, but in its nature. It doesn't add anything to us. It simply takes the pain away for a while. Pain is positive. It pushes itself onto us. It shouts, it demands. Pleasure only whispers and disappears fast. That's the will's greatest trick. It drives us through pain, then tosses us scraps of relief, just enough to keep us moving. And we believe it. We believe a happy life is possible if we can just get a little more. Have you ever asked yourself why, even when everything seems fine, something inside still feels tight? Why, even surrounded by good things, there's a quiet discomfort that won't go away? That's the nature of pleasure. It doesn't fill you. It hides the emptiness. And when the mask slips, modern anguish comes rushing back. The restless mind is never satisfied, and maybe it never will be. But what if accepting that is the first real step toward freedom? In the next chapter, we'll face the silent pain we carry, the kind that hides behind smiles in the everyday, even in our so-called successes. We'll explore why we suffer, even when everything seems to be in its right place. Are you ready to keep going? Have you ever found yourself in a moment that should be perfect, and yet there's this weight in your chest you can't explain? That's the silent pain Schopenhauer described with uncanny clarity, a kind of suffering that doesn't need a tragedy, an ache born from the simple fact of being. When everything is fine, all that's left is the mirror, and in it we see what we've been avoiding all along, ourselves. This pain doesn't scream, it whispers. It lives in the quiet of night, in the pauses, in the moments without distraction. When there's nothing immediate to want, the emptiness appears. Not because something is missing on the outside, but because deep down, maybe nothing out there was ever going to be enough. And that's the hardest moment of all, realizing that life can be full and still feel empty. This emptiness doesn't only visit the lonely or the broken, it finds the successful, the loved, the surrounded. Because it's not about what we have, it's about how tightly we're bound to our wanting and our fear of not having. Modern pain wears a polished mask. It shows up as fatigue, as boredom, as irritation with no clear cause, but at its core it's existential. The pain of being, of carrying awareness in a world with no promises. Schopenhauer understood this anguish as part of the very fabric of life. We suffer because we exist, because we're conscious, because we want. And even when we get what we want, the silence that follows shows us the truth. Desire was never the cure, just a distraction. And in that moment, many collapse. Because facing the emptiness takes a kind of courage we're rarely taught to have. But what if this silent pain isn't a flaw, but a signal? A call towards something deeper, something more honest. Maybe it's not here to be silenced, but to be heard. Because only when we really listen to this pain do we begin to understand what we truly need. And it's not another car, or another like, or another pat on the back. It's something far more essential, something you can't buy. In the next and final chapter, we'll explore what Schopenhauer saw as the way out. He wasn't an optimist, but he did see a path to peace, even if it's a dark one. We'll talk about renunciation, contemplation, and radical clarity as ways to break free from the cycle of pain and desire. Are you ready to hear what no one wants to admit, but everyone needs to know? With so much darkness, you might be wondering, is there a way out? Schopenhauer believed there is, but it's not what we're used to hearing. He said true liberation doesn't come from fulfilling our desires, but from letting go of them. Peace, he believed, doesn't come when we get what we want. It comes when we finally stop wanting so much. Not because we've given up on life, but because we've finally seen it clearly. The antidote isn't to run faster. It's to stop running altogether. Schopenhauer suggested that when we develop deep awareness of how illusory the will really is, we can begin to free ourselves from its grip. How? Through art, through aesthetic contemplation, through voluntary renunciation. Yes, it sounds strange in a world obsessed with more productivity, more ambition, more success. But maybe that's the problem. We're trying to cure our suffering with more of what causes it. For Schopenhauer, when we're moved by pure, disinterested beauty, a piece of music, a work of art, a quiet scene in nature, we step outside ourselves even for a moment, and in that moment, the will falls silent, desire disappears, and something like real peace settles in. It's not euphoria, not ecstasy, just a deep, quiet relief, a truce, a suspension of the weight we carry every day. Another path to liberation, he said, is conscious renunciation, not as punishment, but as clarity. To want less, to simplify, to seek less and feel more. It doesn't mean becoming a monk. It doesn't mean escaping society. It means looking desire in the eye and saying, I see you, but I'm no longer your slave. And in that act, which looks like surrender, there's a secret kind of victory, to no longer be dragged by blind anxiety. And maybe the most beautiful part of all? Schopenhauer believed that this awareness, however difficult, is the first real step toward a more authentic life. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain doesn't own us, a life where the emptiness isn't denied, but accepted as part of what it means to be human. A life where happiness is no longer some unreachable idol, and quiet peace finally starts to matter. And now, the inevitable question, are you ready to stop running? To look your own pain in the eyes and say, now I understand. And as we close this video, I invite you to reflect, not on what's missing in your life, but on how much you're still feeding the cycle of desire. Because maybe, just maybe, the answer was never in the next step. It was in the moment you finally stood still. Schopenhauer's philosophy might seem dark at first. But it's not about giving up, it's about seeing clearly. He showed us that suffering isn't an accident, and it's not a punishment. It's the natural consequence of being conscious in a world driven by endless desire. But more than that, he offered us a path, not to conquer desire, but to stop fighting with it. If you've made it this far, you've already taken the first step. You looked inward, even when it hurt. You had the courage to face a truth most people spend their lives avoiding. We're not unhappy by accident. We're unhappy because we were taught to want without end. But now you know, and that changes everything. It doesn't erase the pain, but it can transform it into clarity. So now I ask you, what will you do with this understanding? Leave a comment below. What part of this reflection spoke to you the most? Share this video with someone you know who feels that same silent ache and doesn't know why. And if this message resonated with you, consider subscribing. This channel is for anyone who carries that emptiness and wants, finally, to understand it. You're not alone. You never were. And maybe now you're beginning to understand why.